Hello again. This is John Butero back with you again for a second video. For the second week in a row, I want to talk to you again about deconstruction videos. I apologize for the fact that the quality of this video isn't that good, but again, I'm in poor lighting. I'm in a tractor trailer truck, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make another video today. And I've been watching still more deconstruction videos. I guess they just keep coming up in the algorithms when I go to YouTube because I've watched so many of them, and they must assume that I'm really into them. And I guess I have been for a little bit, just for the understanding of what people are actually saying. I'm just out of curiosity more than anything else. But maybe you're not real familiar with what a deconstruction video is. And when I say deconstruction, all the ones I've been watching were people claiming they were deconstructing Christianity. And so what I want to do before I get into the main meat of this video that I'm going to do, I want to give you kind of an idea of what you can expect if you watch a deconstruction video, what you can expect to find. And after you see this, you won't really need to watch any of them because they're all similar. I mean, it's a whole bunch of people giving testimonies of how that they left the faith. As Christians, we do videos sometimes sharing our testimony of how we came to trust in Christ. These people are doing deconstruction videos of how they left the faith. So just to kind of give you an example, here is my take on somebody giving a deconstruction from Christianity testimony. Hello, everyone. My name is Todd, and I want to share with you today my deconstruction story. Now, before I do get into this story, I want to assure you all that I really was a Christian. Now, I really mean it. I really was a Christian. I know there's people out there that keep saying that if I was ever a Christian before, I wouldn't leave the faith, but I assure you, you can ask people that knew me that I was a Christian. Now that we got that settled, and by the way, I find it insulting that people keep saying I wasn't a Christian. They don't know me. But anyway, I really was a Christian. I'm going to give you my story and what happened to me. I was raised in church. As a little child, my parents took me every single Sunday, and I was a regular in Sunday school. And then one day, I even got to the point where I got confirmed into the church when I got old enough to. And I even remember when I was baptized. I mean, they sprinkled me real good in that church. And I was baptized. And I was a believer in Jesus. I gave my life to Jesus when they called that sinner's prayer. I prayed that sinner's prayer. And I really meant it. I really did. And what happened with me is, as I got older, I started thinking about some of the things that we were taught in the church. And some of the things just did not add up. They just didn't quite make sense to me. But still, I was still a Christian. I was going to church every week. And then one day I met this lady and we began to date. And by that time, I was about 18 years old. And she wasn't a believer in Jesus. And she started asking me tough questions about the Bible that I just couldn't answer. And I started to question my own faith. I started looking back into the Bible and examining things. And you know what? I found she was right. There were all these inconsistencies in the scripture. And not only that, but people are claiming that God is all loving. And I saw them do things in the Bible that just were anything but loving. And even down to the thing about hell. I mean, the very idea, is it fair that God would send somebody to hell for eternity and torment just because they don't believe? I mean, over time, I just started to question the faith. And before I knew it, I just didn't believe anymore. And I am so grateful for all the brave and courageous people out there who are making these deconstruction videos, because they gave me the courage to stand up and share with you this video right now. And even though my parents, they are really upset about it, and I mean, some of my family almost to the point of disowning me, it seems like, I just really admire these really courageous atheists who have shown me the right way. That's a typical deconstruction video. Now, they'll say different things. There'll be other things in that deconstruction video where they'll be more specific about their actual so-called story of how they turned from the faith. But this is the kind of stuff, the rubbish that you're going to find on a deconstruction video. That's pretty much what you're going to see. Now, I want to talk to you again about, just briefly, about the idea of the one thing that's missing from all these videos. These people were so quick to leave Christianity, but they didn't really have anything to go to. All they went to was unbelief. They went from belief to unbelief, but they have no idea how we got here. They'll say that they trust in what, science, or they trust in things just happen by natural causes, whatever the heck that means. Natural causes to create stuff? That's not natural. That's supernatural. But they don't care. The bottom line is they really just don't care how we got here. All they care about is that Bible is not right, God is mean, any number of stuff that they say in these videos. That's all they care about. They don't care about explaining anything. And as I've pointed out already, science really doesn't have any real answers for anything about how we got here. They've just got theories. That's all they've got. So, what I want to do today is I want to give my deconstruction testimony, but I'm not deconstructing from Christianity by any means. I am a firm believer in Jesus Christ. I've been a Christian since I was 17 years old. My faith is stronger than it ever was. I could go into some interesting stories about how that I've lost my confidence a lot in church leaders, and how that they, because there was a lot of things that they were teaching that was not correct from the Bible. And I had my own time of seeking and trying to get to the truth. But through my seeking, reading the Bible over and over and over again, one person said he didn't believe you could call yourself a real Christian until you'd read the Bible at least 2 times. How about 20 times? Straight through, cover to cover, not jumbled up in some kind of Bible reading stuff. I've read the Bible straight through that many times. I've even read through a 1611 edition King James Bible 3 times with the Apocrypha. I mean, I've read all that, and I've read extra biblical books searching for truth that I was told to even stay away from. My faith in the 66 books of the biblical canon is stronger than ever. My faith in God is stronger than ever. My faith in Jesus Christ is stronger than ever. Nothing has persuaded me away from the Lord. So what I want to talk to you about today, and I want to do this is kind of a little bit of sarcasm and a little bit of humor. You may say a little bit of humor, a lot of, you may think it's just silly stuff, some of what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to make a point in my deconstruction video, because I'm not going to deconstruct from Christianity. I'm going to deconstruct from science. So here's my testimony of how I was a believer, but now I'm not. When I was a child, I don't know if it was the first, second grade, it was in the elementary school time. I remember that we just as kids thought that anything they taught us in school was the truth. I mean, if they said it, it's a teacher, it's in a book, it was the truth. And I remember that they gave us a science book, and I will never forget the first time I was exposed to Darwinism and evolution. And I remember the little monkey to man thing, which I'm sure everybody has seen it at some time or another. You've probably seen it on car bumper stickers. You've probably seen it in a number of different places, maybe in textbooks, but you've seen it somewhere. You've seen the Darwin thing, how that a monkey transforms into a man by the end of the thing. And you may have even seen, nowadays, they've even got that thing where they're mocking the Christian fish, where they've got Darwin in the middle of it, and it's like growing legs. So, but anyway, they had the Darwin thing in there, and they were teaching us. They weren't teaching us this is a theory. They were teaching evolution as being a fact. And I remember I went home that day from school, and I told my mother that they taught us in science class that we came from monkeys, that monkeys evolved into men. Now, my mother didn't take too kindly to that. She said, no, we did not. She said that we were created in the image of God, and that's not true. And I said, well, if we answer it different than that on a test, then they're going to mark us wrong. And she said, I don't care if they mark it wrong. We didn't come from a monkey. She said, I will excuse you if you fail a test because you answered it that you were created in the image of God. Now, I don't remember the result of what happened in that test. I don't remember how I answered it or anything, but I do remember that incident. Now, that did not, at that time, make me suddenly stop believing in science. I mean, yeah, I didn't really believe the monkey to men stuff, but hey, it wasn't enough to completely make me think science was off the wall. Well, some other stuff came up while I was in school during those years. And one of the things that we were taught that I thought was a bit strange, but, I mean, again, science claimed it. We're supposed to trust the science. I was trusting the teachers. I mean, I was trusting that this is a school of learning. So I remember when they were talking about thunder and where it comes from. And they were saying that thunder was created by clouds bumping together. That was the accepted belief back at that time. And if you doubt me on that, I know a lot of people are running away from that today. But if you doubt me about that, go back to an episode of the Andy Griffith Show. I've mentioned this before. Otis the drunk was in the cell, and there was a bad thunderstorm, and Otis was being shaken up by the storm. Andy goes in there and he's calming him down, and he says, "Otis, you got nothing to worry about. Thunder is caused by clouds bumping together." And he says, "Is that all?" And he says, "That's all it is." That was the accepted belief back in the 60s and the 70s that thunder was caused by clouds bumping together. It sounds ridiculous when we hear this today. Even at the time, I thought that was kind of hard to believe. Clouds bumping together makes all that racket. Nevertheless, that was the science back then. That was the consensus back then, which simply means that the different scientists all believe the same thing. And that's supposed to be the end all of everything. If they have a consensus, that's supposed to be it. Just like if you get into a journal and it's peer reviewed, that's supposed to be the end of it. It's peer reviewed, it's got to be right. So anyway, they were wrong. And, at the time, again, I was listening to this. It didn't sound right, but I didn't write off science from that. It just wasn't enough to do it. So I continued on my deconstruction journey. I just kind of ignored that and I went on. Then they came up with a time where they were scaring us about ice ages. They were talking about how all the world was destroyed by a sudden ice age that occurred way on back in the distant past, and how everything just froze suddenly. And they were claiming that we were getting ready to go into another ice age. Now, if you were questioning that, there is a Time magazine article that's floating around on the internet where it calls it a cooling planet. And during the 70s, they thought that the Earth was getting ready to get into an ice age, and they were scaring people with it. Now, I don't think I was exactly terrified about it. I mean, and there was nothing we could do about it if we were heading into an ice age. But nevertheless, I mean, it makes you a little bit nervous. Well, what if we are heading into an ice age? But again, I still did not lose my faith in science. I mean, it was still in the books. Had no reason to necessarily doubt them. Until then they turned around later on. They decided we're not heading into an ice age. Now it's global warming. And every time you would have a heat wave come through in the middle of July and August, and imagine that, it gets hot in July and August, especially in the South. But every time you'd have a heat wave, that's global warming. And even then, I really wasn't completely turned off to science, but I started having my doubts when I found out that we were causing global warming through spray cans. Can you believe that? We were over there spraying our Right Guard deodorant or whatever, and every time we were doing that, we were causing the temperatures to rise, and we were going to do untold damage to the earth, because if it got too warm, the global ice caps were going to melt, and we were going to have our cities underwater. And so, of course, the next thing you know, we were to start banning all the aerosol cans and all this kind of nonsense. Eventually, they even started banning Freon. They got this really overpriced coolant stuff they got now that you have to use in place of it. And I mean, they've just put all kind of restrictions on people, all because they're claiming that man is causing global warming. Now, I'm just going to tell you something that I've more recently made jokes about this whole global warming thing. I've said, well, you know what? What if it was true? What if the aerosol cans and CO2 is being pumped up into the air? What if they warm things? And what if in the 1970s we were heading into an ice age and we were on the verge of destruction? But because people were pumping CO2s into the air through those aerosol cans and using Freon and all this other stuff they claim was doing this, all this stuff, warming up the atmosphere, we were saved. We didn't have the ice age. It warmed up. And what if what the scientists are doing are actually going to be a destructive thing? Because if they could actually get us to go along with all their junk and get rid of all the CO2s as much as they want to, what if it throws us into an ice age? Now, I know this is all silly, but I'm just showing you how silly the whole science garbage is, the whole thing. And if that wasn't bad enough, now they got us being where we're destroying the planet. We're not destroying it. Cow farts are. Cows passing gas are supposed to be destroying the planet to the point where we've got idiots who want to destroy whole herds of cattle to save the entire planet. And I kid you not, I've actually talked to somebody who actually believes that. He said, "Yeah, but what's killing off these cattle in comparison to all these, 2 billion people or whatever that would die if we don't?" It is so stupid. It's so illogical. But that is science. That's junk science, but it's science. And a lot of the time they have consensus, and a lot of the time they put this stuff into various magazines, science journals and stuff, and it's peer reviewed, which just basically means fellow scientists checked off on the thing, gave it a thumb of approval, and it got put in there, and that was the way it worked out. So anyway, they totally lost me with the cow passing gas stuff. I didn't believe any of that nonsense, and I was outraged by it, actually, that anybody's even thinking of killing off herds of cattle just for the sake of supposedly saving us from global warming. And let me also say, this is another thing about that. We went through a spell where that we weren't as warm anymore, and people were noticing it. It was noticeable for several years there. And suddenly, it wasn't global warming anymore. First it was an ice age, then it was global warming. Now it's climate change, which can be anything. They don't even have to go back to anything now, although a lot of them are still going global warming again. You have a heat wave somewhere, and it's global warming. And they come up with the most asinine things to try to stop global warming, such things as trying to get us to give money for our carbon footprint. You know that there were actually people stupid enough to send money in to pay for their global footprint when they weren't even required to do it because they were so worried about it? Do you know that there were people that were in favor of so-called carbon credits, where that you would end up doing some kind of a carbon exchange, and one company could use up their current allotment, and then they could buy credits from another? It's just one of the biggest scams ever, and it was a money-making racket, is what it was. It wasn't going to do anything to save the planet, but yet people were believing in this junk. So, anyway, thankfully, at least for the time being, most people were too smart to fall for that. I never sent in a dime, and I never intend to. I know that wasn't going to do any good. But again, we go from cooling to warming to climate change. There's no end to it. They're always going to come up with something. So anyway, I don't know if it was the cows passing gas or what the thing was that finally got me realizing that I just didn't have faith in science anymore. I mean, how many times can they get things wrong that you finally get to the point where you just give up on them? And let me tell you, the science has changed on a lot of things. People are mocking people right now that are believing flat Earth, and I'm not here to defend flat Earth. That's not my point. But do you know scientists once upon a time, in consensus, believed in a flat Earth? They don't anymore, but they did, and they believed everything went around the Earth. I'm not saying one way or the other about it. I have no faith in science whatsoever. I'm just telling you that science has flip-flopped on that subject. And they'll say, well, they came to know more. Maybe they did. But the bottom line of it is they changed. Science cannot be trusted to be stable. So what is consensus today and what is peer reviewed in science journals today may be completely discarded later on. Do you know that up until the 19th century, it was a common medical practice for people to practice medicine of bloodletting to try to cure things? And whether or not people believe it or not, you would do that. You do bloodletting when somebody was sick, and believe it or not, they actually would get weaker. Can you imagine? They losing blood and they're getting weaker. They're getting anemic and they're getting weaker. Who'd have ever thunk it? But the bottom line of it is that was the science all the way up to the 19th century. It was like 2,000 years that bloodletting was practiced. They don't do that anymore, hardly for anything. But the bottom line of it is it was science once. It was accepted once. So I've just gotten to the point, and this is basically the way the atheists do on the Bible. They turn around and they try to find some kind of fault in something. I got it wrong on all this and this and this. How long are they going to keep holding on to it? I ask the same thing about science. Why should science get a pass for keep blowing everything constantly? And yet we keep on trusting the science. Why should we do that? Well, flat out, I don't. So here's my deconstruction story. There's a certain point, maybe it was when they were going to kill all those poor cows to save the planet. Or maybe it was when I really started thinking about where they're claiming we came from and I started digging into it. How many of you know that the scientists really don't know anything about how we got here? They really don't. What they call Big Bang theory is a theory. It's a completely unproven thing that they teach it as a fact. And they will admit they do not know how the bang happened. They don't know how that the original matter came from nothing. And the bottom line of it is nothing plus nothing equals nothing. There's no way in the world that could have happened. But that's what the scientists do. And they're just hoping that people will just ignore the very beginnings of it and just accept the so-called science where they are saying what happened after that. And what are they saying happened after that? Matter kept expanding and expanding and expanding. And it just started creating things all along the way. And what I like to say is Christianity talks about intelligent design. They talk about unintelligent, stupid design, just happening at random chance. So matter is somehow came from nothing and it starts expanding and expanding and it's creating stars and galaxies and planets and just about everything that exists. It's just going on and on and on. And nobody can really explain this properly how that can happen. Oh, they've got theories, but that's all they are. And they've got consensus. They agree with each other. And it just kept on and on and on and on. Now, somehow or another, as a result of all this, Earth got here. This planet Earth, somehow it was part of where the universe kept on going and going and going. And it created us, but it didn't do it through intelligence. It just did it by random chance. Now, whether or not they want to acknowledge this or not, I'm still going to say so. If the universe created us, the universe is God because it's our creator. It may be a stupid God, but it would be our God. So the idea that they're calling, if they believe in that they're calling themselves an atheist, I would put that into question. They believe there's a creator, but nevertheless, it's a dumb creator, and I would look at everything that exists and I'd say, how in the world could something dumb create everything in such a way that could sustain life like we've got here on the earth? It's just not possible. And then to further, complicate things, they come up with evolution, some kind of microscopic things in the water. It started in the sea. I don't know how they came up with that. Life started in the sea. Microscopic organisms turned into fish. That's amazing, but they did. They turned into fish. I guess they turned into all kinds of fish. And somehow or another, some of those fish decided, you know what, I don't like it in the water. And they crawled out of the water. And somehow or another, they started changing. When they got out of that water, they changed. Now, I don't know about you, if you've ever been fishing, but if I pull a fish out of the water, I reel him in, and he goes out of the water, he's dead in no time. He's flapping around. He ain't growing legs. He ain't change forms. He dies. But science teaches that over millions of years, I don't know how, fish started changing and turning into land animals. And basically the way they do it with evolution, it eventually turned into monkeys that turned into men. Now, there's a lot of animals out there. So it would seem that some of the fish didn't turn into monkeys. They had to turn into other things. And I got to thinking about that. Well, if they didn't all turn into monkeys, what did they turn into? Did different fish turn into different animals? And maybe, just for fun, I started thinking about some of the names of the fish. Maybe the catfish turned into cats. Maybe a seahorse turned into the horse. Maybe the wolffish turned into the wolf. And you get the idea. There's other ones I had on my list, but I'm not going to go through them because you get the idea. The thing is about it, that's how stupid the science is. That's what they're teaching. Now, I said, well, it happened over millions of years. Really? Well, how did it happen over millions of years? If I take a fish out of the water and I lay it on the sand and it sits there for millions of years, there ain't going to be any fish left in no time. It's going to disintegrate over time. It's going to be gone. So how is the fish turning into other animals? And how are they eventually turning into monkeys or whatever they're turning into and then eventually turning into men? That is the alternative to intelligent design. That's the alternative to a creator. Now you got other ones that are out there saying, yeah, but I don't believe in that stuff. You shouldn't be telling everybody that we all believe in that, because we don't. And some of them will even tell you, well, yeah, but we just believe that they share some of the DNA. If they can share some of the DNA and be completely different, that doesn't make them our ancestors. Just small changes in DNA completely change everything. So just because you may say that we share some DNA with a monkey, that doesn't make us somehow related to a monkey. The whole idea is ludicrous. But the fact of the matter is, the Darwin thing is showing a monkey literally turning into a man, and that's what we were taught by the science. And then there's the other group that's out there that absolutely believes in nothing. And I mean, who in the heck are they to talk? They don't know where we came from. They're not even going to speculate on it. They're just going to say, I just don't believe in anything. And if that's the way they are, I have no problem with it. But why are they wasting my time with a deconstruct anything? Putting it in their comments or talking about it. If you got no belief system whatsoever, you're just wasting my time just because you don't believe. And a lot of them don't believe because they think God is mean or something like that, which makes absolutely no sense. I just can't believe in a God unless that God is loving. Well, I don't think it makes any difference. God is who he is. You can think he's unjust. You can think he's unloving. God is who he is. And there is absolutely nothing from a logical mindset that would say God has to be all loving. I know there's preachers out there that are preaching that, but there is nothing in just using logic and reasoning that says that he is always going to be loving. So I don't understand any of that. But as far as the science goes, I just got to the point where I don't have any confidence in science at all. The only time I have any confidence in anything that science comes up with is if it's something tangible that I can see the results on. So if science, like, okay, the science that came up with the electronic devices that are allowing me to make this video, I can see that. I see it works. Somehow or another, the science worked on that. When it comes to medicine, I can see when medicine actually works, and I can see the science. And now sometimes there's a lot of trial and error goes in that. That's really what it is. They do a lot of testing on animals and human subjects. They're basically, it's just they think within themselves, well, maybe this will cure something, and then they test it, and if it does, it does. Kind of like the penicillin was kind of discovered by accident. Somebody realized that moldy bread actually had a positive impact on the guy getting better, and it led to the creation of penicillin. So I will believe in something in science that is tangible, that I can prove. But when it comes down to science talking about how we got here, how old the Earth is, what stars are, that stars are a bunch of suns with planets all over them, light years away, any of that junk they're saying, I don't have any confidence in them whatsoever, and it's all theories. And I'll even give you some other stuff, like where's oil come from? My personal view is that oil is just a naturally occurring substance. I don't believe it's a fossil fuel. And the idea it's a fossil fuel or a naturally occurring substance are both theories. Nobody really knows where it came from, but everybody calls them fossil fuels like it's a fact. A lot of the science stuff that's out there is not fact at all. It's nothing but speculation, and it's nothing but theories. So my deconstruction here is of science. I've come to not believe in it, not trust in it, but my faith in Christianity is stronger than ever. My faith in the Bible and the Genesis account of creation is stronger than ever. I have almost no belief in science whatsoever, and I don't believe half of that NASA garbage. I'm a big fan of science fiction. I love the X-Files and stuff, but I think that's a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe in any of that Star Trek stuff either. Fun to watch. I don't believe any of that stuff. I don't think that there's all these planets going around suns all over the place. I don't believe any of that junk. It's fun to watch, fun to speculate about, but it's pure fiction. It's fantasy. So all I'm saying, and this is what I want to say to my unbelieving friends out there. I want you want us to think and use logic and critical thinking. How about you do the same thing? Think about what the alternative is to an intelligent design. Think about the alternatives that you're believing. You think you're the wise people out there. You're the ones that lack the superstition. We're the superstitious people that, we believe in a God because it explains things. Well, the science did the same thing. You believe in it because it explains things and you want to believe in it, but it's all theories, and it's crazy theories. Just consider it, and consider the possibility that Christianity may be true, but maybe you were misled about what God is really like. Have a good day, and Lord willing, I'll try to get a new video up by next week.